The routine of Olga and Dimitri's wedding was still quiet, predictable, until a seemingly insignificant detail collapsed everything in a matter of hours. "Do you arrive before 8 tonight?" The husband's casual question on the morning of that day, while saying goodbye to work, hides a trap that would only be revealed when she least expected. And what began as an innocent gesture, the verification of newly consistent security cameras, became the discovery that would lead her to dial the police number with trembling hands. It was a Sunday morning, those who invite laziness. Olga moved the pasta of the pancakes calmly, while sunlight filtered through the voile curtain, painting the kitchen with golden tones. The last 3 years alongside Dimitri had been a refuge of peace after a decade of high. They had finally learned to value the small moments: fresh coffee in the morning, the table-drawn plans, the gestures of affection that no longer needed words. When he entered the kitchen, still sleepy, wearing the blue Christmas gift pyjama, the one with the anchor designs she had chosen so carefully, Olga smiled as she served him. "Good morning, my love," he said as he filled his cup. Dimitri hugged her from behind, kissing her face. "You're amazing," he murmured before they sit for breakfast. Between sips and another, they talked about the week they would start. Olga needed to finalize an important project for a client of his interior design firm. Dimitri, in turn, had a decisive meeting with investors for his new business. It was then that she recalled, "Oh, tomorrow comes the technician to fix the security cameras. Remember? We installed before the holidays, but they stopped working." Dimitri nodded, finishing the coffee. "Well, we called. He said he would charge up to 5,000 if the problem was not serious." "Perfect," she answered. "By the way, tomorrow I will be late. The meeting with Corgin may take time." The next morning, while ready to leave, Olga answered the doorbell. It was Igor, the coach, a young man who in a few minutes diagnosed the problem, nothing time-consuming. Only adjustments in the settings and the backup battery discharged. "In 1 hour is ready." Dimitri, already suits and paste in hand, passed through the room. "Do you come back before 8? He asked, kissing her in the farewell. Olga confirmed with a nod, not to mention that the service would probably be completed long before. For some reason, he decided to keep that information just for himself, perhaps to surprise him later with his images, clumsy in pyjama, wandering around the empty house. Igor finished the work earlier than expected. "Ready," he announced, handing him a remote control. "Here you alternate between cameras. And I configured remote access by mobile. Download the application." He showed him a QR code on a paper. Olga paid, kept the coach's number and went to the office, without imagining that that little device would change everything. The day was exhaustive: meetings, calls, last-minute adjustments in the project. Only in the break for lunch she remembered the cameras and decided to install the app. "I will laugh when the Dimitri of pyjama comes, walking around the room like a disoriented bear," he thought as he typed the password. But what appeared on the screen froze his blood. 3 unknown men rolled the room, emptying drawers and cabinets with scary methodism. The heart shot. Without hesitation, he called the police, explaining the situation between sobs. Then, with the trembling fingers, he tried to reach Dimitri. The call fell into the mailbox. She sent a message: "We have thieves at home. I already called the police." The answer took time. "What a joke is this? I'm in a meeting." Olga attached a screen capture. This time, the answer was instantaneous: "I'm already going." The police arrived 15 minutes before Dimitri. Through the application, Olga saw when they invaded the apartment and immobilized the invaders. And then a shock: one of the thieves was Igor, the same coach who had fixed the cameras that morning. When Dimitri arrived, the house was already surrounded by vehicles. He hugged her hard, still panting. "My God, Olya. How did you find out?" "I just wanted to make fun of you with pyjama," she admitted, still stunned. The delegate, who finished the reports, approached. "You were lucky with these cameras. This gang is professional, don't leave traces or digital. They choose apartments where residents spend the day out." "But how did we know we wouldn't be home?" Dimitri asked. The policeman looked at them seriously. The coach was the scout. He studied the residents' schedules and passed the information. "In fact, You are not the first in this neighborhood. That night, after the police went, they remained in the kitchen, tempted absorbing what had happened. It could have been much worse, Dimitri murmured, squeezing his hand. If it wasn't for your stubbornness to want to see me from P.E. Harmer. Olga then remembered something. Seriously, how was the meeting with Corgin? You said you went late. He hesitated. In fact, it ended early. I wanted to prepare a surprise for our birthday. He took a velvet box out of his pocket. Inside, sapphire earrings that sparkled under the yellow light of the kitchen. Olga held them thrilled as the tears dripped. You're crazy, he said, hugging him. 3 months later, life was back to normal, although Olga still felt a chill when he was alone at home. Dimitri insisted on changing all locks and installing a state-of-the-art alarm system. The gang that had tried to rob his apartment had been sentenced to penalties ranging from 3 to 6 years. Until, one night, while reading news on his cell phone, Olga came across a similar case, another wave of theft in apartments, with the same modus operandi technicians who fixed something to map the residents' schedules. He called the delegate who had taken care of their case. Yes, there are similarities, he confirmed. But the main ones involved are arrested. They probably had more accomplices. That didn't get out of Olga's head. Something does not close. She revisited the recordings of the days prior to repair and discovered something about the cameras were working all the time. So why did Igor pretend to fix them? Increased the audio volume in the recordings and heard, cold, a familiar voice. It's all ready. She doesn't suspect anything. It was Dimitri's voice. Dimitri on the phone, stopped in their living room. Tomorrow I ask what time she looks at work, and we act according to the plan. The hands of Olga trembled. She advanced the recording and saw Dimitri meet Igor, the same coach, in a coffee near her home. The two talked excitedly, then squeezed their hands. A wave of ice went through his body. Was Dimitri involved with the thieves? But why? They had a good life, enough money. A terrible suspicion took over her. He remembered the insurance policy they had done a year earlier, covering all the goods. Very generous insurance. That same night, when Dimitri arrived from work, Olga received him with a bottle of wine and 2 cups. Is there anything to celebrate? He asked, kissing her, surprised. Sure, she smiled. I got a promotion. And one more interesting thing. They sat on the living room couch. Olga turned on the TV, but instead of a movie, the images of Dimitri's meeting with Igor in the cafe appeared on the screen. The husband's face has become seconds. What is that? Her voice had come out hoarse, almost a whisper. I wanted to ask you, Olga replied, forcing her calm. What binds you to a man who tried to steal our apartment? Dimitri remained silent, his eyes fixed on the floor. It's not what you're thinking, he finally murmured. And what should I think? Her tone was sharp, Ava growing inside her like a tide. That my husband planned a fake theft to receive insurance money? Or something worse? No. He exploded, his fists clenched. I would never hurt you. Never. Then explain. She crossed her arms, her body tense. Dimitri took a deep breath. Remember my startup? He waited until she nodded. We are on the brink of bankruptcy. I invested all our economies, I got loans. I was desperate. Olga felt a knot in her throat. And did you think pretending to theft was the solution? No. I mean. He ran his fingers through his hair, disoriented. At first, yes. I knew Igor for a common contact. He proposed the scheme, we simulate the robbery, we received the insurance. But I changed my mind. Interest. We met in the cafe to cancel everything. And you expect me to believe that? The tears ran down her face. May I taste a little? Dimitri took the cell phone and reproduced a recording. In it, in fact, he told Igor that he had given up, that everything was cancelled. So why did they come anyway? Olga insisted. Igor acted on his own. Dimitri seemed destroyed. He knew our routine, where we kept things of value. I didn't think I would have the courage. Olga was silent, trying to process all that. It was too much. Too painful. Why didn't you tell me about business problems? He asked finally. He was ashamed, he confessed, his voice broken. You were so proud of me, my successful startup. I didn't want to disappoint you. And instead, you planned a crime. She got up, unable to be close to him. I don't recognize you anymore. I panicked. Dimitri also got up. It was a moment of weakness. But I changed my mind, I swear. Forgive me, please. Olga stared at him for a long time, the man he thought he knew better than anyone in the world. I'll warn the police, he said finally. They need to know that you were involved with these people. I deserve it, he lowered his head. The next months were the most difficult in Olga's life. Dimitri avoided the arrest, as technically did not participate in the robbery, but received a suspended sentence for complicity and planning. Your startup went bankrupt. They sold the apartment to pay off their debts. Olga asked for divorce, unable to forgive the betrayal. He moved to another city, exchanged his job, started from scratch. Sometimes I flipped away from happy times with Dimitri, and the chest hurt with a mixture of longing and disappointment. 5 years passed. Olga had built a solid career as a designer and even opened his own studio. He had learned to trust again, although relationships were still delicate terrain. One afternoon, leaving a meeting, he spotted a family figure on the street. Dimitri. He looked older, more serious. Seeing her, she froze in place. Hi, he said after a silence. Hi, Olga replied, surprised to realize that she didn't feel angry or bitter, just a strange void. How are you? He asked. Well. I have my own studio now. He pointed to the building behind her. I saw your work in a magazine. You are incredible. An embarrassing silence stopped between them. And you? She finally asked. I work in a IT company, Dimitri replied. No startups, no adventures. I live simply but honest. Olga nodded, not knowing what to say. I thought a lot about what I did, he continued suddenly. Every day I regret destroying everything we had. Not for money or comfort, but for losing your trust, your love. Olga felt his eyes burning. It was in the past, he said dryly. I know. He smiled sadly. I just wanted you to know. I changed. I learned to value honesty, the simple things. And I will always be grateful to you for not letting me sink for good. They stayed there, in the middle of the busy street, two strangers with a common story, but distinct ahead. How about a coffee? Olga was surprised to hear his own voice. Just to talk. Dimitri looked at her incredulously, then nodded. I would love. They entered the nearest coffee. The conversation was hesitant, full of breaks, but gradually became lighter. They spoke of work, life, carefully avoiding the hurt subjects. As he left, Olga realized that something inside her had calmed down. That reunion was not a fresh start, nor a forgiveness, it was the closure of a cycle. An acceptance of what happened and the certainty that she was going ahead. 10 years after those events, Olga was in his new apartment, installing a state-of-the-art security system. He smiled when he remembered how it all started, that day when he checked the cameras to laugh at Dimitri's pajada. An seemingly small decision that had changed everything. Now she had a prosperous design company, husband she loves, the name was an irony of fate, and a 5-year-old daughter. Sometimes I still dreamed of Anka P. Harmer. But this time, it was not a nightmare. It was just a memory that even in the stumble, life finds a way to take us where we need to be.